There's a growing silence between men and women today, a kind of tension you can feel long before you see it. You walk into a cafe, a park, a bookstore, places where human connection once sparked effortlessly, and you notice something unsettling. Men stay in their own orbit. Their eyes don't wander, their steps don't drift, their attention doesn't linger. It's deliberate, controlled, calculated. Women sense it too, even if they pretend otherwise. They ask, why don't men approach anymore? But they don't really want the real answer, because the real answer forces them to confront a world they helped create, one built on hostility, danger, and unpredictable consequences. Men didn't suddenly forget how to talk. They didn't lose courage. They didn't become shy or socially inept. They simply became aware. And once awareness enters the mind, it never leaves. Reason number one is the most obvious but the most denied. Approaching a woman today carries a humiliation factor that didn't exist in the past. Not just rejection. Everyone can handle rejection. It's the performance of rejection. The dramatization of it. The way some women turn an ordinary approach into a theatrical display meant to entertain observers and elevate themselves. A simple no, thank you has evolved into eye rolls, disgusted expressions, exaggerated body language, and sarcastic remarks loud enough to echo. Men don't fear the decline of interest. They fear being publicly degraded for it. No sane man volunteers to be the evening's entertainment at someone else's expense. Reason two is even more terrifying. The possibility that the moment he opens his mouth, a phone is already recording. Social media turned ordinary interactions into digital landmines. Men have watched clips go viral where a polite hello is edited, captioned, and framed as harassment for tens of thousands of strangers to judge. A man's face becomes a meme, a villain, a cautionary tale, a punchline. And once your image circulates online with a negative label attached, you don't get your dignity back. You don't get your career back. You don't get the benefit of the doubt. One stranger's emotional interpretation becomes your permanent online identity. Men understand the stakes, they've seen the damage, and they choose silence over spectacle. Reason three cuts deeper. Modern dating operates under a brutal double standard men can't navigate. A man's approach is not judged by its respectfulness, its tone, or its intention. It's judged entirely by whether she finds him attractive. A handsome man can approach boldly and be labeled confident. A less attractive man can say the same words with perfect respect and be labeled creepy. And men finally realize they're playing a game where their behavior is irrelevant. They can rehearse the perfect lines, carry themselves with decency, and still be treated like they committed a crime for daring to speak. It isn't the approach that determines the outcome. It's their genetics, and no amount of effort changes genetics. Reason 4. The hostility in public spaces is suffocating. Modern culture trained women to see male attention as unwanted by default. Men feel the tension before they say a word. Women stiffen. They avoid eye contact. They clutch their phones. They put on headphones. Their body language communicates, "Don't talk to me. Don't come near me. Don't exist in my space." Men have learned to read the room. They know when they're seen as a threat, not a human being. Approaching under those conditions doesn't feel bold. It feels like trespassing. And men choose not to trespass. Reason 5 is the one almost no one discusses honestly: the legal uncertainty surrounding simple male behavior. Approaching a woman can be reframed days or weeks later as harassment based entirely on how she decides to reinterpret the moment. Following up after a date, trying to understand mixed signals, sending a message to clarify confusion. These were once normal parts of dating. Today, they can be labeled as unwanted pursuit, boundary violation, even stalking, depending on her mood or who she talks to. Men understand they are one miscommunication away from HR involvement, legal consequences, or a record that follows them forever. When the rules are undefined and one-sided, men walk away from the entire game. Reason 6 goes beyond logic and enters the emotional realm. Men are exhausted. Not physically, not socially, emotionally. There is a unique kind of fatigue that forms when every attempt to connect is met with suspicion, hostility, or condescension. Emotional rejection accumulates. It builds layers. After enough negative experiences, a man's nervous system simply shuts down the part of him that once initiated. This isn't fear, it's trauma. Trauma teaches avoidance. A man who has been burned enough times does not touch the fire again. Not because he's weak, but because he finally respects the scars on his own hands. Reason 7 is the market distortion that social media exploded. Women's standards have inflated to a level that no society in human history has ever sustained. Not preferences, standards. Women with nothing to offer but a pulse openly demand elite men with perfect bodies, high incomes, emotional intelligence, lifestyle freedom, social status, and unwavering commitment, while they bring debt, attitude, entitlement, and minimal self-awareness. Men aren't delusional. They see the mismatch. They see women who bring average or below average value demanding men in the top 10%, even when those men have no reason to choose them. Approaching becomes a waste of time when the bar has been raised so unrealistically high that most men are disqualified before they speak. Reason 8. Men are competing with the entire world, not the room they're standing in. Women today receive more male attention in a week than previous generations received in a year. Men from around the globe fill their inboxes with compliments, emojis, propositions, validation, and promises. The average man trying to start a conversation in real life is competing with perfectly filtered gym selfies, wealthy strangers offering vacations, and digital fantasies sculpted for instant gratification. Men understand the math. Why would she choose the man in front of her when she has a buffet of virtual options curated to flatter her endlessly? Approaching becomes illogical in the face of artificial abundance. Reason 9 is the most psychologically devastating. Perception has replaced reality. A woman doesn't need proof to accuse. She doesn't need evidence to claim discomfort. Her emotional retelling of the moment becomes the truth people believe. And because society automatically sides with her, men walk around knowing they can be destroyed by someone else's feelings. Not facts, feelings. That is not a risk rational men take lightly. You cannot build confidence in a world where your very presence can be weaponized against you. But the 10th reason is the most transformative and the least expected. Men have discovered the value of their own peace. What began as avoidance slowly became a revolution. Men realize that life without constant rejection, hostility, and danger is peaceful. They built hobbies. They worked on their bodies. They focused on careers, fitness, finance, skills, and personal purpose. They found solace in solitude, comfort in independence, and empowerment in self-direction. They learned that the emptiness women predicted for them never arrived. Instead, something stronger appeared, clarity. They began to see that chasing validation was the true source of suffering. And when a man stops needing approval from strangers, he becomes immovable, untouchable, free. This is the truth women don't want to confront. Men didn't stop approaching because they gave up. They stopped because they woke up. They stopped because the environment turned predatory. They stopped because the emotional cost outweighed the reward. They stopped because approaching became a liability instead of an opportunity. And they stopped because they discovered a life where their dignity isn't constantly at risk. Men aren't returning to the old system. Not until the rules change. Not until women relearn respect. Not until the culture stops treating male interest as a crime. And even when that day comes, there's a deeper truth underneath it all. Once a man learns to value his own peace, he never again sacrifices it for chaos dressed as connection. He never again trades his stability for someone else's entertainment. and he never again lowers himself to beg for attention that should have been met with basic human decency. And here's the part almost no one dares say out loud. When men stepped away from approaching, the world expected the male population to collapse into loneliness, desperation, and regret. But instead, men found something unexpected. They found a version of themselves they had never met before, stronger, more focused, more disciplined, more intentional. Men realized that peace is not the absence of women. Peace is the absence of chaos, disrespect, and emotional volatility. And for the first time in decades, men tasted what life feels like when they are no longer begging to be chosen. Something shifted in their psychology. So to every man listening right now, focus on your mission. Build your mind. Build your discipline. Build your value. Become a man who walks with intention, not desperation. The world may not reward your effort immediately, but your future self will thank you for every boundary you enforce today. Women come and go. Trends change. Opinions shift. But your purpose, your peace, and your self-respect, those are the pillars that will carry you through every chapter of your life. And if you found clarity, truth, or strength in this message, then do the one thing that helps this movement grow. Like this video so more men see it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for the next narration. Because we're not just talking about men's struggles here. We're helping men wake up, rise up, and reclaim their lives.